Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the virtual public informational meeting for state project number 119-121, replacement of bridge number 5068 in the town of Roxbury. You can see our contact information indicated below, the project email, phone, or visiting the project webpage. Next slide, please. Thank you. Here's a quick overview on how to view closed captions and subtitles in Zoom. This is a quick overview on how to use the Zoom Q&A. So you'll select the Q&A tool at the bottom of the webinar window. A separate window will pop up. You may then type in your question and click enter. If you're an audio-only participant, you may dial *9 to raise and lower your hand. My name is Mark Burns, and I'm the project manager at the Connecticut Department of Transportation for the Federal Local Bridge Program. Here's my contact information. The goals for tonight's meeting will be to interact with the project team, to explain the Federal Local Bridge Program's Design Managed by State, or DMS program, which this project is being designed under. We'll have welcoming remarks by the town of Roxbury. We'll introduce the project team. And then following that, there'll be a formal presentation of the design progress, where we'll explain the condition of the existing bridge and explain the purpose and need for its replacement, and then present our recommended viable proposal. Please bear in mind that at this point, our plans are only at 30% complete, and there's still time left to refine the design. Following the formal presentation, there'll be an open forum for your questions, and we will be able to answer to the best of our ability. Here's a quick overview on how to interact with the project team. You can send us an email at dot-flbp@ct.gov, by phone at 860-594-2020. Please keep in mind this is a monitored voicemail line, or in the Zoom Q&A, which will only be active during the live session. You can also email at any time during the comment period through April 10th. Here's a quick slide on Title VI Civil Rights, which states that no person shall, on the basis of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation or subject to discrimination in the development of this project. We highly encourage you to visit and fill out the post-meeting survey located at the link below and QR code. And then there's a link to the department's Office of Equity regarding Title VI. A recording of this presentation will be posted to YouTube after the event, and closed captioning is also available on YouTube, which includes non-English translation option. Here's the department's policy notice to the public on Title VI. The funding for the project is through the department's Federal Local Bridge Program under the Design Managed by State, or DMS program. Previously, in the traditional Federal Local Bridge Program, the projects were funded 80% with federal dollars, 20% with town dollars for design, rights-of-way, and construction, and the town would have to solicit their own design firm. Under the DMS project, design, rights-of-way, and construction phases are funded with a minimum of 80% federal dollars and a maximum of 20% state dollars. Design, rights-of-way, and construction is at zero cost to the town. And we also, the department also utilizes our task-based designers and our consultant liaisons for the design process. While the department is taking over the design process is still a full partnership with coordination with the town. The goals of the DMS process are to create a streamlined approach to design using full DOT resources to aid the towns to keep their bridges in a state of good repair by effective use of funds, to decrease our typical design time from roughly 60 months to 36 to 48 months, to utilize accelerated bridge construction, or ABC techniques, to shorten construction durations, and to increase the number of municipal projects delivered to construction each year. I'll now turn it over to Patrick Roy, First Selectman, Town of Roxbury. Patrick?
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone who's joined this, whether you're watching this as a recording or live tonight. And I'd also like to thank the Connecticut DOT and Close, Jensen, and Miller this whole project so far has been very streamlined and with a lot of transparency. So I think it's important that tonight we take that time to answer any questions that we have. Like they said, it's open till April 10th. And really, honestly, just listening to some of the concerns of our town, we have a very unique town. Some of our concerns were with traffic flow, which they're addressing, the appearance of the finished product, as well as environmental concerns. So I just want to thank everybody for their interest in this and thank everyone who put this together.
Great. Thank you, Patrick. I'll now introduce the project team from the Department of Transportation. Our division chief is Bart Sweeney, who's the manager of the bridge unit. Also is Derek Lassard, principal engineer of the consultant liaison engineering unit. Myself, Mark Burns, project manager. Andrew Shields, project engineer. From the department's Office of Rights of Way is Zach Garino, the right-of-way coordinator. And then from Close Jensen & Miller, who's the department's consultant liaison engineer, is Jim Platosh, project manager, and Jim Otis, project engineer. Here's a brief slide highlighting the structural elements of a bridge as well as their condition ratings. This is for a typical pipe culvert, as indicated by the pipe underneath the road, which supports the roadway, and then supporting earth retention are the wing walls and end wall. Bridges are rated from a condition of 1 to 9, with 9 being in excellent condition and 1 being in a case of imminent failure. This is not meant to alarm anybody, as the current state of this bridge does not warrant any immediate attention for emergency. This is a slide similar to the Wellers Bridge Road itself, highlighting some key structural elements. The wearing surface or driving surface that will hold vehicles or pedestrians is known as the deck. Protecting vehicles and pedestrian traffic from roadside hazards or watercourses is the parapet. Supporting the deck and the parapet is the superstructure. In this case, it's showing steel beams. Supporting the superstructure and deck are the substructure, which is highlighted by the midspan pier. In the case of this bridge, there is midspan pier present. And then on each end of the bridge, abutments and wing walls that act as transfer loads from the deck and superstructure into the ground below. Here's another slide highlighting some key bridge structural elements. This is a precast concrete rigid frame, which has several of the other elements, while also displaying steel piles, which will also carry the loads of the bridge into the ground and prevent from scouring out the substructure of the bridge. This slide shows examples of various concrete deterioration. On the top left, you see efflorescence, which usually happens when chemicals react from inside the concrete and cause that white substance to come out. Honeycombing is a situation where air is trapped as the concrete is cured, and then the air voids cause portions of the concrete to pop out as shown. Scaling and spalling are situations when concrete is subject to various freeze thaw, where scaling is more on the surface, spalling is more severe and more deeper into the concrete. Map cracking tends to occur as concrete is curing, if the outside of the concrete cures before the inside of the concrete, causing the cracking shown. I'll now turn it over to Jim Otis to begin the formal presentation. Jim?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending this virtual public informational meeting for State Project 119-121. My name is Jim Otis. I'm a project engineer at Close Jensen & Miller, and this is a picture of the bridge that we're here to talk about this evening. Bridge 5068 carries Wellers Bridge Road over the Shepaug River. It's located about 1.25 miles west of the center of Roxbury and 2/3 of a mile east of the Bridgewater town line. And it's about 200 feet also east of Baker Road, which is Route 67. The land around the bridge is zoned residential. And Wellers Bridge Road is classified as a rural minor collector with an estimated average daily traffic flow of 3,000 vehicles per day in 2023. The approach roadway has a posted speed limit of 30 miles per hour, and the 24-foot wide approach roadway width provides 2 lanes of traffic, 1 in each direction. The land northeast of the bridge, where you see the buildings, is privately owned. The land northwest, southwest, and southeast of the bridge is Roxbury Land Trust property and part of the Orzek Family Preserve. The existing 2-span bridge was built in 1956 and rehabilitated in 2001. It's a steel multi-girder superstructure with composite concrete deck supported on 2 concrete abutments, 1 at each end of the bridge. And you can see 1 concrete center support pier near the middle of the bridge in the river. The abutments are founded on piles driven to rock, but the center pier is on a spread footing, which is surrounded by sheeting. The overall structure length is about 147 feet, with a maximum span of 68 feet. The overall structure width is 25.5 feet, but the curb-to-curb width on the bridge is only 21.2 feet. There are overhead utility wires that span the river on the north side of the structure, which you can see in the top photo, and there are fiber optic communication conduits under the deck, which are the 3 white pipes that you see in the bottom photo. The deck condition on the existing bridge is rated as poor, and the 21.2-foot curb-to-curb width is considered too narrow for the current traffic volume that's here today. There are cracks in the pavement, and the concrete deck under span 1 has some scaling, punky concrete, and some 3-inch deep spalls with exposed rebar. Deck conditions under span 2, shown in these photos, include a 3-foot diameter concrete patch, an 8-foot long by 3.5-foot wide by 6-inch deep spall with exposed and debonded reinforcing bar and punky concrete. And there's also some severe scale, active leakage, and hollow concrete areas under span 2. The steel superstructure is in fair condition. Some components exhibit light, heavy, and laminated rust, and some of the steel girders have section loss due to corrosion. The substructure is currently in satisfactory condition, but does have some active leakage at the 2 abutments and center pier. There are concrete spalls up to 3 inches deep and some isolated hollow concrete areas. And so the purpose of this project is to address the structural deficiencies that I just discussed associated with the poor deck condition, the narrow deck width, in order to get this bridge into a state of good repair. It's recommended that this 68-year-old bridge be replaced in order to achieve that purpose. A rehabilitation of the existing bridge is not an option given its poor condition. So Close, Jensen, and Miller and the Connecticut Department of Transportation looked at 3 replacement alternatives. The selected alternative shown here will provide a clear span of 160 feet and eliminate the need for a center pier. A 160-foot span meets or exceeds 1.2 times the measured bank full width of the Shepaug River at this location and accommodates 2 riparian or wildlife crossings under the bridge, 1 at each bank of the river, which I'm pointing to with the laser pointer here and here. That would actually allow wildlife to cross from one side of the river to the other. The new bridge will be founded on conventional footings on top of piles, given the flow characteristics of the river during major storm events. The elimination of the center pier will also prevent future scour and sedimentation in the river, sedimentation being the accumulation of excess sediment. And this type of structure, a single span, will have a smaller permanent environmental impact on the watercourse than a replacement bridge with a new center pier would have. The Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection reviewed the project and indicated that the Shepaug River supports a diverse community of 13 different kinds of fish. And the DEEP noted that about 750 trout are stocked in this river annually. As you can see from this graphic, the center line of the proposed replacement bridge, and the replacement bridge is shown in orange, would be located south of the existing bridge, so that most of the new bridge would be built alongside the existing bridge. You can see a portion of the existing bridge, it's in gray, and it's located between this number 300 and that number 300. That's where the existing bridge is. The new bridge will be built slightly to the south of that for reasons I'll explain in a few minutes. I mentioned overhead utilities on the north side of the existing bridge, which can remain in place while the proposed bridge is being constructed. This graphic shows the proposed bridge and road improvements in orange and yellow. Underground fiber optic communication lines that are currently located in the roadway and under the existing bridge deck would need to be relocated during the project. And temporary construction easements will be required for construction access, grading, water handling, and sedimentation control upstream of the existing bridge to the north. The new bridge will have a curb-to-curb width of 28 feet, which will accommodate 2 lanes of vehicular traffic, 1 in each direction. And the traffic direction is designated by the green arrows. The one pointing up is eastbound towards the center of Roxbury, and the one on the left pointing down is westbound traffic. The bridge will have an open metal bridge rail mounted to a cast-in-place concrete curb, and a 5-foot 6-inch wide or 5.5-foot wide sidewalk on the south side of the bridge. The superstructure will be comprised of 5-foot deep steel girders with an 8.5-inch thick cast-in-place concrete deck, topped with membrane waterproofing and 3-inch hot mix asphalt wearing course. Now, although there is no sidewalk on the existing bridge, we are providing one on the replacement bridge, as I just showed you. Because of this bridge's overall length, the average daily traffic flow, which is, as I mentioned, 3,000 vehicles per day, based on the department's 2023 estimate. And also it's located near an existing scenic road in town, River Road, as well as being near the Bridgewater town line. Additionally, the town of Roxbury's first selectman, Patrick Roy, also requested that a bridge sidewalk be put on the bridge. One of the reasons for that is that the proposed bridge sidewalk will extend past the ends of the bridge in 2 directions along the roadway approaches to facilitate connection to a future multi-use Weller's Bridge loop trail that is proposed by the Roxbury Land Trust, which is shown on this graphic. In fact, I will point with the pointer. Our bridge that we're here to talk about is located where the red dot is, and the blue line designates the future Weller's Bridge loop trail, which will connect to the ends of the bridge. And the sidewalks that I spoke about earlier, which will connect to the Roxbury Land Trust's future multi-use trail, is shown in green on this graphic. A possible land swap is being discussed with the town of Roxbury and the Roxbury Land Trust on the south side of the proposed bridge, which will facilitate construction access for the replacement work. The land swap areas are designated by the orange and purple triangles. For example, the town could swap the bigger piece of land within its existing right-of-way on the east side of the river, shown in purple, for the smaller piece of Roxbury Land Trust on the west side, shown in orange. Under this scenario, the trust would end up with more land and more river frontage than it has now. Additionally, the property could be acquired and transferred by other means. Now, while we were planning this project, we looked at various options for the maintenance and protection of traffic. The first option that we looked at, the most obvious one, would be full roadway closure of Weller's Bridge Road in order to implement a detour shown on this graphic. However, the town's first selectman, who is also the local traffic authority, was opposed to closing Weller's Bridge Road and using Route 67 as a detour because of the added traffic volume it would cause through an accident-prone area on this route near Sentry Hill Road, which is at the top left corner of the blue shape. The DOT's Project Development Unit investigated Route 67 and confirmed some of the town's concerns in March of 2023. And the Project Development Unit indicated that corrective action may in fact be warranted on Route 67 prior to this route being used as a detour for State Project 119-121. So we set that option aside. We also looked at an option where we considered constructing a temporary 2-lane bridge crossing over the Shepaug River to avoid detouring traffic. However, this second option was discounted because of the costs, the environmental impact, and the longer construction duration associated with building 2 bridges, one temporary and one permanent. If we built a temporary bridge, it would need to be assembled, put into operation before bridge work could begin to demolish the existing bridge. And then that temporary bridge would have to be disassembled afterward, which could add months to the overall construction duration. So what we ended up recommending in our study was staging the replacement bridge or building the replacement bridge immediately adjacent to the existing bridge so that 2 lanes of traffic could be maintained through the project work zone throughout the bridge replacement project. So looking at this graphic, the top graphic with the number 1 next to it represents the existing bridge shown in gray. There's 1 lane of vehicular traffic in each direction on the existing bridge designated by the green arrows. In the second graphic, a portion of the proposed bridge shown in orange and yellow would be built alongside the existing bridge. And this segment of new bridge would be just wide enough for 2 traffic lanes. In the third graphic, you can see that both lanes of traffic would be shifted onto the new bridge on the right. Then the south part of the existing bridge, shown in dark gray, would be dismantled. And the equipment to do the work, the contractor equipment, could utilize the remaining part of the old bridge. So passenger vehicles, the public would be traveling over here, and the contractor would be working over here. In the fourth graphic, you can see that the rest of the new bridge would be built, including the sidewalk, the final pavement, and the bridge rails. And then finally, in the fifth graphic, you can see that the rest of the existing bridge structure previously shown in gray would be removed. These are the local, state, and federal permit approvals that are anticipated for the project from the town of Roxbury, the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, and the United States Army Corps of Engineers. Town residents will have an opportunity to hear details about the project again at a future Roxbury Inland Wetlands Commission public meeting if they want to. The DOT performed an environmental review of this site and determined the approximate project location has a moderate to high archaeological sensitivity, and it suggested that any work beyond the existing right-of-way to the north of the present alignment or deep subsurface work on the south side warrants a formal archaeological field reconnaissance. Because the recommended bridge replacement will likely involve these types of activities, we are in the process of obtaining proposals from qualified archaeological firms to perform an archaeological investigation in the project area this summer. Construction is anticipated to begin in the spring of 2026, depending on the availability of funding, acquisition of rights-of-way, and pending approval by local, state, and federal regulatory agencies. The bridge work is anticipated to take 14 to 16 months to complete. I will now turn the presentation over to Zachary at DOT to discuss rights-of-way issues. Zachary?
Thank you, Jim. My name is Zachary Garino, and I'm a project coordinator with the department's Division of Rights-of-Way. Our office is responsible for acquiring the property rights needed for transportation projects. As mentioned by Jim in the presentation, this project will require the acquisition of property rights. So I'd like to give a brief overview of our acquisition process. Before I begin, I'd like to mention that the specific impacts are still being finalized and may change as the design progresses. And that any required property rights will be acquired in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes, sections 13A 73 and 13A 98E, as well as the Uniform Act. You can change the slide. The right-of-way acquisition process begins once a design has progressed to a development milestone and all of the impacts have been determined. At this point, each affected property owner will receive a formal letter of intent to acquire from our office, along with a property map, which depicts the exact property rights to be acquired. And on the screen here is an example of a property map that an owner might be receiving. Next, our office will determine the fair market value of the property rights that were depicted on that map, which will be used to establish an offer of just compensation. That offer will be sent out to the property owner in writing, and a right-of-way agent will be available to meet with the property owner and explain the project, go over the specific impacts to their property, and explain how the state arrived at its offer. The property owner will be given a reasonable amount of time, typically 30 days, to consider the state's offer and enter into negotiations. When an agreement is reached, the department will prepare all the necessary paperwork to record the deed and property map on the town land records. However, if an agreement cannot be reached, in order to keep on schedule, the department may acquire the necessary property rights through its power of eminent domain. In that event, the state files a notice of condemnation in the Superior Court along with a monetary deposit in the amount of the state's offer. The owner would have 6 months from that date to file an appeal if they felt that the state's offer was inadequate. Whether or not the owner chooses to appeal, the money deposited in the court is available to be withdrawn by the owner. It's important to note that the state only acquires property rights that are needed for the project. If there are any questions regarding the right-of-way acquisition process, I can answer them after the presentation. With that, I'll hand it over to Andrew for the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zach. Great presentation from CJM as well as Zach and Mark. At this point in time, I'd like to open it up to the Q&A portion of our presentation this evening. You can either reach out to us by email at dot-flbp@ct.gov. You can call us by phone at 860-594-2020. Mind you, this is a voicemail. It won't be a live question and answer. But if you would like a live question and answer, you can hit the chat button at the bottom of your screen for a question and answer. So at this point, we'd like to open it up for a public live Q&A. Jim Otis, in the meantime, would you be able to go over the detour quickly?
Yes, I can talk about the detour that we considered. As I stated during the, and I'm going to put a different slide up here. Initially, we considered a detour, a 4-mile detour around the project area. However, based on input from the local traffic authority and we decided that, and input from the department, we decided that rather than do a detour, we were going to stage the work as shown in this slide. This slide again depicts the concept that at the top, the existing bridge would support 2 lanes of traffic. The second graphic, we would start to build the replacement bridge next to it. And then the third graphic, the traffic from the existing bridge would be shifted over to the proposed bridge, the new bridge. And then the fourth graphic, we would start to disassemble the existing bridge so that we could do the full build out of the proposed bridge. And then the final graphic shows the proposed bridge. So in essence, there will be no detour. Detours will be avoided or minimized to the greatest extent possible by constructing the proposed bridge immediately adjacent and slightly south of the existing bridge.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jim. I appreciate the clarification. Again, I would like to open it up to public Q&A to any of the attendees that are currently involved in the presentation. I have one question. So The viewer is curious if the final elevation will be higher than the current existing elevation of the structure.
Yes, I'll take that. That's a very good question. The existing, and I have a graphic here, which I hope you can see. The the proposed bridge is shown in the plan that I showed you. The orange bridge is going to be slightly higher than the existing bridge. And that's also depicted. This is a roadway profile plan. This plan depicts that the surface of the new bridge will be about 2 feet higher than the surface of the existing bridge. And that was necessary in order to make the hydraulics work and get the roadway geometry to work as appropriately as possible. So as you can see, again, going back to this graphic, the orange bridge on the right, the proposed bridge the bridge deck is higher in elevation than the existing bridge shown in gray.
Thank you, Jim. Would you be able to remind everyone what this project is going to cost and when the road is actually going to be under construction?
Sure. The project is anticipated to begin the actual construction in the spring of 2026. The Department of Transportation will probably advertise the project for contractors in the summer of 2025. And then between, say, August of 2025 and April of 2026, the contracts, the bids will be evaluated, the contracts will be formed, prepared, and executed. And of course, during the winter months, the Department of Transportation doesn't typically do work, between November 30th and April 1st. So we anticipate work starting at the beginning of 2026, not the end of 2025.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jim. We have one other question that came in. Where will equipment for the project be placed during the construction time, specifically during the day as non-working time?
That's a very good question. I'll field that. So as I mentioned earlier, I've got a new plate. This wasn't a part of the presentation, but something that the department asked us to look at. We think that all of the activity will occur, within the dashed red lines shown on this plate. Now, as far as construction equipment goes, remember we are building the new road and bridge shown in yellow and orange, slightly offset to the south of the existing Wellers Bridge Road and bridge. So a lot of the construction equipment can be stored along the old Wellers Bridge Road in order, at nighttime when they're not working on the new bridge and roadway. So we think that's a good area for the contractor to use. And then all this area here that I'm pointing to, this is all part of the existing town of Roxbury right away. This is town land. So the contractor can use this area, for storage as well.
And Jim, how is the river going to be protected when they're staging all this material on the sides of the river?
Good question. The contractor will be required to utilize best management practices, including hay bale, silt fence, temporary seeding, temporary sedimentation basins. Those features aren't shown on this slide, but the details for that would be included in the local inland wetlands permit application that will be prepared and submitted. And I would think that, according to the department's project schedule, that application would probably be before the local wetlands commission in about a year from now, March of 2025.
Understood. Thank you. We have one question that came in, or one comment / question. The attendee understands the concerns about diverting traffic to Route 67. It's important to note for the record that the state of Connecticut has done little to remedy the issues currently existing at the Century Hill Road / Route 67 area. These concerns have been in existence for many years. For the state to agree with our first selectman, Patrick Roy, that the current roadway is unsafe for the anticipated traffic volume speaks to the need for the state to take ownership of the Route 67 route and to make improvements. So unfortunately, during this project, the scope is actually strictly just on the bridge itself, and we don't have the financial ability to be able to address the detour concerns as well as the bridge itself. But we chose the safest route possible that was available in the area that was the least impactful to the project. Luckily, with Jim Otis's presentation, he was able to explain that there was going to be a staged construction, which increased both time and cost of the project, just to make sure that if the road was ever shut down, it would be for a very short period of time, and it would be extremely limited the time we would actually have to be diverting traffic strictly around the project site to the Century Hill and Route 67 area to try and limit that issue.
Yeah, and as a footnote to that, Andrew, that's correct. Also, I understand that the Department of Transportation for state project number 172504 is maybe repaving portions of Route 67 and in other parts of town, not in near our bridge. They may be putting in rumble strips on Route 67, but there are a couple of state projects, I think, and the state is looking at Route 67 or Baker Road and on that detour route, but it's not part of this project, and the timing is not. We don't know or don't think that that'll be done before this project. So I think, and Patrick Roy may have more news on it than I do, but I think the state is aware of it. I think they have some projects in the hopper, and I think they've also done a few things with regard to signage and so forth on Route 67. But we decided to be conservative and not rely on those other projects or any other improvements to occur before the bridge project. So we're providing a Cadillac here. We're going to stage construction to maintain traffic on Wellers Bridge Road rather than divert it to Route 67.
Great, thank you for that clarification, Jim. We have one other question that came in. To what extent will River Road be protected from construction activity as well as the informal diversion of traffic?
Well, I know River Road is a scenic road, and I will try to pull up a map here. I guess the best one might be, do I have a good map? Well, I have the Wellers Bridge Loop. So if the town who will be controlling the construction contract does not want the contractor to store equipment on River Road, that can be built into the construction contract. I quite frankly, I think the contractor will probably be more interested in utilizing the right of way along State Route 67 and Wellers Bridge Road for his equipment storage rather than River Road. But that's a very good question, and thank you for that. We'll take that into account and have a dialogue with the first selectman about how he wants to limit the contractor's activities on River Road, if that's what the residents want.
Great, thank you, Jim. So at this time, again, this is an open Q&A for the entire project. Any questions you may have or concerns you may have, you're welcome to voice them here. If we can't answer them here, we could absolutely follow up with you very soon. Because again, this project is to better the infrastructure of the state of Connecticut. So anything we could do to help, we are more than willing to do so. So Jim, we got another question in. Will there be plantings and trees replaced along the riverbank and construction areas when the project has been completed?
We have not proposed landscaping these very conceptual plans. However, you know, as this project moves forward into design and as we go through the local, state and federal permitting process, you know, there will be an opportunity to supplement this plan with plantings if deemed appropriate, either by those regulatory agencies or during the local permitting process. So I think certainly there's an opportunity to do some landscaping within the right of way along the road if that's something the town is interested in pursuing.
Perfect, thank you. So at this time, seeing no other additional questions or comments, queries, concerns from the general public, I would like to thank everyone for joining this evening, this evening's presentation, and we thank you for your attention to your community. So our comment period is open through April 10th, which is 2 weeks from today. So there's another 2 weeks available in the calendar to be able to make any questions, comments, concerns voiced to us, as well as if you don't make that period, you could still reach out to us again, because we're doing our best to try and serve the community. So at this time, I'd like to close out the presentation and thank everyone for your time tonight. CJM, it was a great presentation on your part. Thank you very much for everyone who was able to take the time out of their schedule to attend this night's presentation. So everyone, please enjoy your evening, and we look forward to proceeding on this project with you. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Good night.
Take care.